Alrighty then. The thing has been hit. It says we're live. Hey guys, what's going on? Memes here. And I'm joined for round two with our friend, Daniel Varga. Say hi to everyone, Daniel.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you again.
All right. Yes. And it is totally my fault for being late. I got into a monastery conversation about some very interesting stuff and things that may be related. Perhaps we'll get to it. Perhaps I will even remember what the heck I was talking about 20 minutes ago. But today, we're here to have Daniel back on to discuss some of his theory, jumping continuity theory, which, at least according to what I put in the description of this show, is basically it seems to be a cyclic style process going throughout our universe as we know it, so to speak, in things resonating through different scales. That's kind of what I had taken away. I'm probably butchering that. Daniel, how much did I butcher that?
No, you are generally right. Actually, on the cyclic part, that's a little bit more. That's probably comes later. So I try to focus on what we currently have evidence of and have a good knowledge and information. So I start from the here and now. Actually, I have this as the principle for every observer. They have the here and now, and they try to understand the world from there. And that means in this case we start from the human, and then we goes to the multicellular organism, animals, then unicellular, and then we goes deeper. But as we go deeper and deeper, our accuracy gets a little bit lost. So it's a little bit lost in the accuracy. So that's actually a big part in my theory. That's the here and now principle. As times goes back, the accuracy loses, or if we predict to the future, that's already known. We cannot really predict too far away from the today. So that means I'm really focusing on this time frame. What we currently have a good explanation from the Big Bang 30.8 billion years ago to for today, and that's I try to convey. And the jumping continuity theory is coming from that's it's continuous, but it goes in a somewhat wavy way. So that's why the jumping.
Mhm.
Actually, I would need to insert here. Recently, I looked up again the idea of punctuated equilibrium. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. That's from evolution. That's from biology. Um, Actually, I should bring that up later. Punctuated equilibrium. That also a similar idea what the jumping continuity means. So it's continuous but in jumps. And the previous idea in evolution, actually, they think the gradual increase of anything, innovation or the change, but in the equilibrium, the then it brings, yeah, you can see punctuated equilibrium.
I was going to say, this is very interesting. And I like some of, full disclosure, Daniel had shared some of his work a little before. I'm like, oh, I like how these things kind of bridge there. So it's looking like, at least according to Wikipedia, take it for what it's worth. Real quick, first couple sentences in evolutionary biology, punctuated equilibrium, also known as punctuated equilibria, is a theory that proposes that once a species appears in the fossil record, the population will become stable, showing little evolutionary change. It's basically it's you'll have periods of kind of stagnation, and then all of a sudden you'll have like a rapid acceleration of things, and like you'll jump to like a new level, and then it kind of levels off, and that's kind of what I took from it, from at least the
Yes,
standard Google definition, which is
that's good.
what
And
I was
actually,
basing what I was trying to say on. So
please go to the images if you would like to, because that's great images there as well. Just if you just search for
okay, yeah.
it again.
Do you want me to do a generalized search or just where I was?
Where you was, that's all good. You should,
Okay.
if you can bring up the pictures, that's
Hey, Fractal.
hello everyone. So if
Okay.
you go back to
Oh,
the
no, we got
Google
Fractal. We
search
got
and
Rick. Go on.
pictures, so just go scroll up and just do the picture images. So here, if you go down, yeah, here it is. You see if you stop, you see the time and change graph, and there is a revolution and stasis at the back left side, or below that you see the Taylor person graph as well. That's one, yeah, and also this one. So you see, sorry, that you see the jumps and the stasis, revolution, stasis, and the gradualism was the usual usual way to look into this kind of progress.
Well, that's very interesting, and they've actually mapped like the fossil records and stuff, kind of like around this, or
Yes, it's can be seen this way. This is totally can be scientifically tested or just shown. So actually, this is two way of thinking about the similar ways. I studied some of similar things. When I developed my theory, I just always looking for articles that explains more and extends my understanding. There is actually an article where they looked up in a historical time frame from the last 4 billion years time frame the biggest organisms over time, and actually that's also seems like in this punctuated equilibrium style. So that might point in this direction. Actually, in my video for the pace one contest, in the description you can find that video actually as well, or the source, not video, that is an article, sorry, but that's a little bit more deeper. So basically it's not cyclic yet, because I don't go that far. And also,
I'm totally inserting my bias there. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. But the basic understanding is what you also described. It's kind of this what you see here, like the punctuation equilibrium. I will also show some pictures later on, and might explain a little bit more. But this is really great showings here.
Well, it seems like what I'm just noticing from just scrolling through these images, and again, I'm jumping to conclusions, yes, pun intended. It seems like this is a model that models very well, depending on where the line is, a lot of things.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand you. What you mean here? Could you?
It's well, at least according to this one here, I'm looking at career progress and then versus time, and it seems to be similar to what we had before, except it's going across the staircase there. It seems to be fitting kind of like the top half rather than kind of like being through the full equilibrium. If this does actually model a lot of different phenomena, I don't know if that's true. I just jumped to a conclusion.
Yeah,
Wasn't sure if you had.
Interestingly enough, if my theory works out, that's so general theory that most of the systems can be described this way. So
Groovy.
sorry. So about my theory also, I cover human evolution as well, and human evolution and human population is also looks like this punctuated equilibrium. Actually, I would like to show that. Let me show
Cool.
my picture. One moment.
Everybody loves pictures. I know I do. That's why I'm in a picture within a picture within your picture.
Oh, where it is? Ah, here. Okay. All right. One moment. So.
Speaking about perspectives, Rick, we can talk later. So, all right.
Yeah. All right. Do you see
Oh,
the
here we
screen,
go.
right?
I do.
All right. So at the top left side, here where you see my cursor, this is actually from a scientific article back in around this time. You see 1981.
Mm-hmm.
So around this time, called DV actually. It's also, you can find more on under my video if someone is interested about this. So seems like there was 3 major surge in human population increase in the longest run. Like this is a logarithmic scale. So if you see 1,000,000, 100,000, 10,000, 1,000 years ago, this is 1,000,000 years
Oh,
ago
we're going
started.
down by degrees of magnitude. Yeah.
Yes, so this is a logarithmic scale, and here there are some good explanation. So this starts actually from the 100,000 years, and before that, so the hunter-gatherer age, then agricultural age, industrial age. This is not a scientific paper at the right top, but is the representation of that, but it's similar. And this down, you see those actually the current data what we have, because back in the day they didn't have too much data and they just could show similar graphs, right? But the
It was
data,
more of a generalization.
yes, the data is not that straightforward, and the logarithmic scale is a tricky one, because at the end of this graph you see like it's leveling off, but this is basically because of the logarithmic scale. So it's, you can think of it's for 1 year, and if we continue, that could continue forever actually for 1 secondum. So it's kind of skews some representations at the end, or this end as well. But the general idea, you see, is after technological advancement, the population increases until a point where they gathered, or they implemented most of the things what this area invented or something like that, and then they start to invent another big leap, and that continues and brings more population to the next level. And that's actually, this is not a common knowledge, and it actually should be studied deeply. Unfortunately, after minus 10,000 years ago, we don't really have good data. So it's a little bit speculation here, but in a little bit longer scale, we can also still speculate. What is from my theory? If I will show the another one from my here, yeah.
I find it
So
interesting because that sorry to interject, Jado, but it was just that end there. I'm like, it went far because I'm like, how long have humans been around? I don't know. I wasn't there, but I saw it kind of trailing into like about like 1,000,000 years ago, which seems a really long time. But apparently, there was recently an article somewhere they had found actual degree, like rocks with varying degrees of like smoothness, like being cut into spheres with like certain tools and stuff, and they estimated up to like between about like 1 to maybe even 1.4-ish million years ago, according to the record. So I'm like, that's a really long time. So I could totally see that. My opinion.
Yeah, just insert some information there. Actually, the one of the first interesting hominin was the Homo erectus, but already left Africa. That was the first. It's already happened 1.5 million years ago. That's also not a common knowledge. So not just Homo sapiens sapiens left Africa, but Homo erectus, who what was already an advanced human, already left Africa as well. So that's and after they increased their brain capacity, then became the Homo sapiens later on. So that is really interesting. We know lots of things on that. Let me present this another uh, graph what I just made. Mm,
Just Fractal, be wary of Tatooine. Maybe you'd have more or less sand on the brain. I don't know.
Here,
Rick
okay.
Rick really seems to be a fan of with this. He's like, this appears to be more of a paradigm shift. So I'm like, well, seems like you got some fans. Oh, is it coming up? Hold on, let me
Yeah,
try again.
yeah.
There we go.
Sorry. Yeah. So actually, you see similar graph here, just a little bit more generalized way. So the tool making, agriculture, industry, and we get to the -10, and now we are here in the digital age. So that can also shown probably 10 to the 10th billion, maybe the when we end up like 12 billion people or something like that. And probably after that we also start another, we can call this paradigm shift or another big invention. And to be honest, that's already can be seen. That's probably the artificial intelligence that we dealing with today. So that would predict, if it's true, that might predict a human population, or let's say agent population goes to
Ooh.
these numbers. So if if we are brave enough, it's not a wise thing to extrapolate in scientific papers or generally in science. But in this case, um, if it brings already 3 jumps, and there is seems like the fourth also there, we can be a little bit more brave and say, all right, if this is continuous, because it can, then it can goes, to be honest, it can goes to the ad infinitum. So that's where actually my theory heads. Seems like we can do this ad infinitum, like to infinity. So that's just one thing.
I mean that's a very bold statement. I love it. I love it. I would totally love to see that. Um, and it's very interesting because we were talking about, it's like, oh, when was the last time we had talked? It was about 9 months ago. It's like, oh, what's happened within like the past 9 months or so that seemed to maybe be a little bit of I don't know, supporting data. Well, ChatGPT seems to be running like a quarter of the planet right now. So I mean, hey, it is what it is. I say please and thank you often because it's important. And if and when our AI overlords take over, I'm just saying I think the AI is going to model itself after us for better or worse. That's the same thing that I conjectured to Professor Wolfram. So I'm like, why wouldn't you treat it like I would want to be treated. I don't know. I think that goes back to the golden rule. But that's very interesting that since we've spoken, it seems like one of those paradigms is really taking off. I mean, that's fascinating. Because I was going to say, like, it seemed like those intervals were getting shorter and shorter. That's kind of
Yeah,
scary, but
yeah. Actually, that's one of the point here. These jumps is getting closer and shorter and shorter. What I wanted to highlight here, what I said, it seems like it's really bold and it's hard to accept at this moment. But if we go back in time, what my theory does, we go back in time around 2 billion years ago when only unicellular life existed. So imagine the unicellular life was there 2 billion years ago, and only that. And today we have multicellular uh, organisms, and actually they rule the world on our scale. But if you think about the unicellular progress on that scale, they also probably took similar paths to be here because we have around 50 trillion cells in our body. So that means that took like 2 billion years took to get to 50 trillion organized unicellulars. And this is where my theory takes a little bit more to the unknown and more bold statements. So in this case, I compare the human actions to unicellular actions. And if this is true, we are forming the cities like the unicellular formed back in the day, the multicellular colonies maybe. And actually this is where my theory starts to fold up, because if this is true and the the intervals getting shorter and shorter, that means the after our time frame it will be like a shorter time frame to get to the next level. Not 2 billion years ago, it will take around 500, or usually actually 1/3 of the first step. So this is where my theory starts to fold up, and this is the meat of the theory, and it still could be checked scientifically.
well, then it was that. That's one of the things. I'm like, we are now in the age where we have even more data, and we can actually start to look to see like what was going on. We can make grand conjectures. We can also use, like you were showing right there, logarithmic models. Thank you, Jen. She taught me that logs were very important. But just even looking at this, if you're going to start to model, and again, like you said, this kind of where you said you were kind of getting some of the meat there that maybe either a little later now or maybe another time. I sit back and I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm like, let me assume if that was true, what would I be looking for? Could I picture that in my head? I totally can. I totally can. But it also scares me a bit because the sheer fact that I immediately start to draw particular conclusions. And as you said, we would need to back this up with data, but we are getting more data now. So it's sounding like this might actually kind of be a feasible thing. Um, it also kind of sounds a lot like some of the work that I know Tyler Goldstein as well. Shout out to Tyler as well. Um, has been working on too, because it sounds like he's starting from almost like those human units, and like you're saying, like humans can come together, and if on this particular scale, what would be a more complex version of humanity? Well, you'd have like smaller groupings first of different cells and everything, and then eventually you'd start to literally start to affect the landscape, the world around you, by building up different cities. And it is interesting how that works. It also does scare me, um, but I'm just Daniel, what are your thoughts? What do you think that folks actually, before I get to that, I'm sorry, Fractal had a question. Uh, Fits and spurts and the rate of change of large-scale systems should be expected when feedback mechanisms are not synchronized. And that was asked as a question, so it kind of sounds like there's like a imbalance, but then things end up balancing. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not really understand this question. So large scale system should be expected when are not. What is the? Do you understand when the feedback mechanisms are not synchronized? What do you mean here,
I think
Fractal?
I think he's I think to generalize what Fractal is saying, I think it's if there's a system and is out of equilibrium, it will tend to do a thing to get it back into equilibrium.
Uh, yeah, I'm still struggling to understand the real question, but in this
I
yeah, unfortunately, I don't really understand. Sorry. So
I think it was kind of almost it was a bit of a steel person. It was supporting the claim of jumping continuity. If all of a sudden something will be at a particular level, it'll be in that level for a reason, and then over time things will get out of balance. So something will need to occur for it to get back into balance. I believe that was the claim.
yeah, all right. Maybe actually I will share another picture and I will talk about how this might work out because this is where it's really interesting and hopefully
All right.
that can be understand. Here I share the screen. You should see.
Yeah.
All right. So
Oh, and Fractal, sorry, it's Fractal saying it's Le Charlie's principle, which, according to chemistry libretext, Le Chatreau's principle states that if a dynamic equilibrium is distributed by changing the conditions, the position of the equilibrium will shift.
yeah,
So
yeah,
uh,
that's
we could unpack that another time.
yeah. All right. So you see, here might be the multicellular progress in time. So at the right side, you see. Sorry, that is just really easy graph. I'm sorry, it's not that great, but hopefully you can understand. So, so the human, we are here as a multicellular, like the full body. Then seems
Mm.
like before we or like let's start from the left sides because that's probably better to understand. So here we start with unicellular individuals, right? So
Hmm.
it has to be that way because we have to assume 2 billion years ago there was only individual unicellular organism because we know we have a multicellular now, and then they seems like start to cooperate, they start to work in networks. It's you can think about this maybe as a city, and it might be two-dimensional. After that, they are also growing, like you see, they are growing in similar fashion in this network. Then
Hmm.
function could be arising, and they start to have a boundary. After they have a
Mm.
boundary, actually they could start query itself and develop like the develop information propagating systems and like the managing systems like our brain, or maybe I would just maybe the DNA in the unicellular. So
Hmm.
so or government in our cities or majors. So after that also it starts to three dimensions. It can be stationary first and then it moves, and after that we have this full boundaried multicellular organism. And
You threw me off almost for a minute there because at first I'm like, to human, I'm like, Whoa, we went really quick there, but it is labeled entity.
Yeah, yeah. So after that, we goes to cities actually, and we start to get the networks. So if
Hmm.
if this is true and it could continue in the future, we should expect an entity in similar scale to the unicellular what we had here, like to the scale from the unicellular to the human. We can have from the human size to this organism or entity, and actually um, it's around 25 kilometer in diameter. The entity would be here if you just compute with spheres. So so that's how big we are to the unicellulars. Like for us, a 25 kilometer big uh, diameter, big like something.
It's,
It's
I mean, that's like a city. That's a big city, yeah.
and but in 3 dimension, because this is really inter- important. So I didn't show that before, but if we accept this in this level, and I think it can be seen how that could work out, then we might assume this might worked before as well, because
Mhm.
the scales actually make sense. Interestingly enough, we have around 50 billion or 37 trillion cells in our body. In a cell, they have around 100 trillion atoms. So seems like something is correct in this case, or at least that can be the scale factor here. So if we assume this might be true, then we can assume the cellular might have been might gone through on this evolution as well. And actually the jumping continuity theory claims it might continue like further as well, from the molecules to atomic and quarkic range. This is a bold part, but this down there, this still could be scientifically, let me say, defendable, or we can just theoretize this. So that's that is the explanation how this could happen. In short term, I would like to explain what I usually share these days. We are a collective intelligence of unicellular organisms. We could say that the city in the future might be also a collective intelligence of humans, and below that as well, the cell could be also a collective intelligence of atomic constituents. So this is the it's bold, and if you understand the implications, it's really, you can say, huge, but that's what I'm trying to develop, and try to use data and actually math later on. Maybe I will show some graph as well to how this could work out.
It's Jack is conjecturing right there. Full disclosure, I don't think either of us. I could be wrong about Daniel. I don't think any of us are biologists by trade per se. I just know from just a logical perspective of just my cursory state education and stuff like that. That seems to be what was explained to me. It seems to be following a logical process. And the more and more I've interacted with other human beings and creatures on this planet, it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. But again, it's if I assume that it is true, though that closeness, that frequency is scary, but I also did like how you mentioned the population was agents, and you didn't necessarily just say human beings, because I feel like that would actually fit that logarithmic scale. And if it continues out that way, I mean, I'm an optimist. I am an optimist per se. I'm willing to entertain all the different ideas and stuff as much as I am capable, but it sounds like there's some exciting stuff that we could potentially see not so long from now. What say you, Daniel?
Yeah, so probably your viewers know the idea of maybe technological singularity or just the singularity itself. Raymond Kurzweil is one of the key figure there, or I should say Theodore Modis, who was made the graph actually for Kurzweil, or Kurzweil took the graph from him, and actually they have different opinion about this. But Kurzweil mentioned the technological singularity. Also says they goes shorter and shorter and quicker. So that's basically, in the last 100 years we saw so many progress in technology. The next 10 years we might see similar magnitude what we saw in 100 years ago, and then 1 year what has we seen before. So this is actually an exponential progress, and the exponential, it's really hard to grasp by humans, because we usually do a linear progression, or just the thinking about that. So
Okay, let me put you on the spot here, Daniel. Since this is increasing in frequency, if we're going to postulate that, all right, the the current initiative we're living through, the current paradigm, is artificial intelligence. Is that a fair claim? We could. I would agree with that personally.
I think you should say the unfolding paradigm. That, so it's not the,
Okay, fair. That's
yeah.
fair. Okay. So if we are going to consider this an unfolding paradigm, what is the time scale for the next three? Because it's increasing in frequency. Like, are we talking like 30 years, 20 years? Like, just according to your model.
Yeah. All
I
right.
know it's
No,
very hard to predict.
no, it's actually I have calculations on that. So
Please.
that's why it's I didn't really share that before, and I'm really,
If you don't want,
we
feel comfortable sharing, it's totally okay.
we
But
can we can just, I wanted to
okay.
explain. Uh, this is what I am talking about, is my theory. This is a working title, and it might be wrong or it might be right. It's I'm trying to be as honest as and as humble as can be a person, because this is just, right now it's a theory. So but I will try to guide you to this, because it's interesting. So if we consider the last great paradigms, and let's say we use the physical paradigms around Isaac Newton time, it was around 300 years ago, the the first physical mechanistical view of our world emerged. 100 years ago, there was about the Einsteinian quantum mechanistic world folded out. So if you see that 300 years ago, then 100 years ago, that 1/3 of the 300 years ago time frame. And actually, this is what could help you here. If we divide the 100 by 3, we have the 33 years. it will be tricky after this, because the 0 point it's really hard to predict where we are at the moment. But if we say the 100 years ago was, let's say we took the Einsteinian miraculous year, the 1905, then we arrive 100 years to 2005. If we say that 2005 was the last point of this 100, and we about the 1/3 of the next step, we could add to that time 33 years, and that means 38. So around 2040, that is the prediction of this paradigm ends, what is folding right now. And after that, we have 1/3 again. So after 2040, we have around 11 years from that paradigm to fold. And then that is 2055. And then it just really goes exponential, but humanly, we cannot really predict or understand. But that is really interesting to see. It might be because if we achieve, it is totally plausible, we achieve artificial general intelligence in the next 30 years, that means it can be possible they took they self-improve and they took this path, and that's also makes the agents like more abundant than before, because they also could try to change the world, or we goes into online, or the agents as well. So that's also could be another part. But I think it's the physical. If it's a physical thing, we should be in this bigger entity. But actually, on the bigger entity side, that's interesting. The bigger entity prediction from my theory is 170 million years from now, when that ends, because we start from 30.8 billion years ago. Then seems like the 4.6 billion years ago, when the solar system formed, that might be one another jump. 1.5 billion years ago another. And if we took those to consideration, the last is 500 million years from now, and then we have divided this by 3, and then that means 170 million years to the future. So it is important what you compare. These two is on the same graph, but one we are going to the end, and one we took the whole graph together. And that's actually a little bit scary for me, because if it's true on both ends, the current state, and from the biggest size we understand, that means it can actually be true.
It's I think at that part it almost comes full cycle right there, or full circle, so to speak. It reminds me of the old meme of "Here be dragons. We're going off the end of the map. Will we come around like the game of asteroids? Don't know. Sounds like one heck of a ride, though. But okay, all right. So you gave an extraordinarily precise answer that delved even farther than what I was thinking. But no, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I mean, that's. I mean, if that's true, that's a fantastic story, and that's one of the reasons why I like you, because you share your ideas in a very positive light, because there's so much bad juju, there's terrible things that happen. But that's why I feel myself drawn to different folks with very strong positive messages and everything. I mean, it also doesn't hurt that I agree with a lot of the things you're saying, and I feel like some of the things I've been looking at, some of the other folks that I've been speaking to, I think we're all kind of describing the same thing. Like we're all right in a sense there. And this is something that I even saw from one of Professor Feynman's old videos where he said, very often, if you were a scientist or even if you were an artist, if it was a person that had learned as much as they could, had been like really trying to like push themselves into literally the unknown, so to speak, that if you have two people that are doing that, doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter like where you're from. It's just you have the ability to resonate with another human being and you can have very fantastic conversations that I know like these conversations, they've influenced me. I've had other folks where I have a conversation with them or just even a comment on a YouTube video every once in a while. It's like you leave something there. Maybe they had heard about it before, but maybe you refresh their memory. Like every once in a while, when when I see something like Professor Keating does, where it's like I hear him use the old adage. It's like intelligence is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put a tomato in a fruit salad. Um, and I use that, and people have heard of that. And then all of a sudden, I'll hear him use it in a video. I'm like, that's cool. I'm like, was that me? I don't know. I mentioned to Jonathan Garrod at one point that I'm like, him and Professor Wolfram at the Wolfram Summer School. It just reminds me of Harry Potter for so many terrible reasons. I mean, they're both British chaps. He has they have the glasses and everything like that, and I'm like, well, it's basically digital wizardry. I'm like, you're literally like doing all these computations that basically seem like magic with Wolfram Alpha and the Wolfram language. I'm like, that young man is a wizard. And then Professor Wolfram interviewed him later that year. They were talking about was it Professor Grossendiek with the Infinity Groupoid and stuff. And apparently Grossendiek did a lot of that work just like in his spare time. He's just like some brilliant genius that just like thought all these ways that nobody could still understand. And at one point, Jonathan's like, "Yes, Grossendiek, part-time wizard." So I mean, it's those little things where it's like, I have no idea if that word it's probably appropriate, even if I didn't say that. But that's why I love the internet because you can see these interactions. You can look back. It's Daniel, like one of one of my great dreams is that if we manage not to destroy ourselves in like 1,000 years, some internet archaeologist could look back, look at some of these videos, this interview right here, some folks that are talking in the chat, and you could actually start to document. It's like, what were the human beings back then talking about? Because like when I grew up, and probably within our both our generations too, we were told it's like primary resources are important. What's a primary resource? A letter, a book. Okay, I don't. Is a video more detailed than a book? This, that, or the other thing? I don't know. But I just find it interesting that people could actually look back upon these times and see what folks are doing and everything. I always just kind of look at it as the long game, as much as I like dunking on other human beings that are caught in like the worst moments of their existence. As fun as that can be, it ain't really my thing. I'm just like, I'd rather like highlight humanity like doing good things because otherwise I'll just lose my mind and become a complete psychopath. So like, thank you for saving me from myself.
Yeah, actually, this is fascinating, and I am happy you actually allow yourself to think about 1,000 years from now and look back, or let's say 200. But what you say, it's actually really important. I once looked up. Back around 100 years ago, we had around 1 million scientists all over the world, or something like that. But nowadays, we have around 12 million or something like that. So that's a tremendous amount of people working on every aspect of our world. And right now we have the communication tool that was not there in 100 years ago. And actually, from a video conference or a video presentation, you might have 1 hour presentation. It might contain a whole book, but you would need to read like 2 or 3 days until you comprehend this information. But if you might have, hi there, if you have the possibility to watch this on a video presentation, that's your understanding could improve. And if they have graphics or visualizations, that also really help to understand. So actually, many of my information comes from video presentations for professional people who wrote articles, but they present also on video as well. So I can understand more in a low or shorter amount of time, right? Not reading all the
Mhm.
books I would need.
You can also listen on times two sometimes.
Yeah. All right. Let me show you one graph I made. That's it might scare someone. What do you see? This is math.
Well, it's okay. It's okay. People have already been warned enough times on this channel. There's enough debauchery that goes around. Not as much today. There's still
Yeah.
time though.
All right. If you see,
All right.
do you see the screen?
I do.
All right.
All
So
right.
so I call this history of communication, and this graph also logarithmic graph. Like you see here the indications, each cycle is shortened. So what is showing here, we can start from the modern internet 2000, then the internet formed, newspaper, then printing, books, writing, cave painting, language, and even 6 million years ago, the BCA is before common era here. So and this shows actually, like you see, similar to a linear graph, but that's why, because this is a logarithmic
It's
scale. This,
logarithmic.
yeah, this would look like a hockey stick or even more. But in
Wait.
this
How far
case,
back is that 100,000 or is that a million
yeah,
at
that's a
the end?
million. I should have
Okay. Okay. No. No.
that's
No. No.
million.
I'm wearing sunglasses. So okay. So we start
Yeah,
at a million. We go down to 100,000.
because this is a, you can see because of this, right? 6 million, it's around somewhere here, because 10 is here,
10,000,
10 million here.
100,000, million. Oh, okay.
You
So we're going
see,
back 10 million. Okay. That makes
yeah,
sense now.
this the last one is 10 million. And here we see actually the impact, but recently actually I thought we can actually have a more meaningful and probably better aspects here, population. Because if we insert here the population, the graph doesn't really change, a little bit, but that actually the impact, it's not, it's vague. But the population, it's not, we can have a data on both sides, relatively accuracy, and you can see this is actually x on the -1, so it's basically 1 over x. This is the most basics um, what is that function you can find. Actually the zip, how it called, zip's law, I think. Zips or zip's
So
law.
I was just noticing because I love how you had that laid out because that the thing that I've noticed, and this is just me personally in my life, like I still remember like dialing a phone like this on like a rotary dial and like asking like, is so and so home? Not where are you at? Is somebody home? I am you are at a particular line, you do a particular thing, and then you had the ability to more or less instantaneous to do what we're doing right now, but it had to be at a very particular location and time, and somebody actually needed to pick up the receiver. I remember that. I remember when cell phones then came on the scene. I remember when social media started to come on the scene. And now the modern thing where we can literally just be messaging on Discord and then be like, oh, does tomorrow work for you? Oh, tomorrow I have another conference. Or, well, how about today? It's like, okay, well, today. And then we just set this up in the process of like less than an hour. It's like, I believe the intricacy of our communication has allowed for a much higher velocity of information because that impact period where you're showing there, the thing that I took away was, all right, you had cave paintings and stuff. Now maybe somebody heard about a cave painting verbally, maybe somebody would actually write something down, okay, but once you have written language, something that can exist beyond the lifetime of an individual agent there, you now have information that can be passed on. So that increases the ability to pass that information on down through generations. And then as the media becomes more and more formalized, they always have the saying, well, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So that got me thinking too, well, if there's a good video lecture from someone that's laying out a very professional understanding of a particular topic, I'm like, there might be a lot of visuals. Does that equate out to a book? For some people, it may. For some people, maybe it's more. For other folks, maybe a book is a better tool for them to learn by because we're all different. We each have our own unique life experience. But I mean, aside from a couple of strands of DNA, we're all the same, you and me. So I just look at it as that way. But again, the concern comes in with mostly within the past like 20, 30 years or so. Because I still remember that time where you would just have the telephone, you would get the newspaper, or watch 2 or 3 channels that had the news at night. Now, there are kids literally born that have never known anything other than Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. It's just we now have generations of folks being born into that, knowing nothing but that. And I'm like, wow, they don't even have the reference point of there was a time before this. And that's with the increased velocity of information that can lead to very good things, could lead to not so good things. Which way will we journey down that path? The power is yours, my friends. I'm
Yeah,
just cruising the wave.
yeah, that's really nice. We don't really know for sure. Um, what seems like from my theoretical work, what I know, it seems like it will happen. Anything will happen, and as we are here, that shows from the unicellular to multicellular, it was always something what survived. Not everything, right? It always something survived. This is why we are here. So that's the interesting part. Probably we are enough, like 8 billion people. Many will probably survive, and they will pass through this increase of technological advancement. That is my current prediction, and that's actually what I study. Many people uh, goes in this direction. Seems like this is the current way. Yeah, so that's it.
I'm totally bummered it myself. I muted it. I forgot. But yeah, so we've been going for about an hour. I know that's what I had said we would do. So Daniel, why don't you give a few closing remarks? Let the folks know where they can find you and learn more about jumping continuity theory.
Yes. All right. So actually, who is interested about what I talked about, they can look up my X/Twitter. They will see many pictures as well there. And one important work I did is a Pace One video for YouTube, where on the Theories of Everything YouTube for the Theories of Everything YouTube channel. And actually, I am active on the Theories of Everything Discord channel. Feel free to contact me if you have some questions or you are interested. I'm happy to explain a little bit more. because there is lot more in my theory. Actually, I will try to make an article soon and try to publish. Maybe we'll be in the ResearchGate first and then try to share somewhere. So that would be it. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Cool. No, thank you, of course, for coming back. You totally made doing content today a heck of a lot easier. I'm like, oh, I meant to have him on, and my co-host for my usual Thursday show, she wasn't available. So thank you for being a co-host of Science and just working in at the perfect time. So I appreciate that, man.
You are welcome.
But
Bye
all
bye,
right,
guys.
hey, peace out, everybody. We'll catch you all next.